A quiet neighborhood, a mother and daughter, a home they shared for years. But on March 22nd, 2025, that home became a crime scene. A woman, 64 years old, found with multiple stab wounds. Unresponsive. The person accused of taking her life? Her own daughter. A mother who had always been there. A daughter with a troubled past. Just months earlier, she had been behind bars. But she wasn't alone for long. Her mother had bailed her out. And now, that same mother was gone. What happened inside that house? What led to the violence? And why did it end in murder? Tonight, we examine the tragic case of Elaine Labenne and Shanna Marie Vannorman. In the Clarksburg, West Virginia, Elaine Labenne was more than just another name. She was a mother, a friend, and a woman whose kindness touched the lives of many. At 64, she had built a life filled with love, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to those she cared about. Her story should have been one of peace in her later years, a time to reflect, to enjoy, and to simply live. But instead, her life came to a tragic and violent end. To understand the weight of this loss, we must first understand who Elaine Labenne truly was. Born and raised in Clarksburg, Elaine spent most of her life in the place she called home. Those who knew her describe her as someone who always put others first, sometimes even at the expense of her own well-being. She was the type of person who would give her last dollar to someone in need, offer her couch to a friend down on their luck, and check in on neighbors just to make sure they were okay. That's just who Elaine was. Elaine's warmth extended far beyond her immediate family. She had a way of making people feel seen and heard. Whether it was a conversation at the grocery store, a passing wave from her porch, or a heartfelt talk over coffee, Elaine had a presence that made others feel safe. Friends recall her as a woman who would listen without judgment, offering advice only when it was truly needed. She believed in second chances, in the ability of people to change. Perhaps that belief is what led her to make one final, fateful decision, one that would ultimately cost her life. She had been a devoted mother, someone who stood by her children even when times were difficult. She understood hardship, as she had faced her own struggles throughout life. But no matter what, Elaine always believed in family, in standing by those you love, and in doing whatever it took to help them find their way. Even when that path was uncertain, even when that love was tested. Her friends say she was the kind of woman who never turned her back on anyone, no matter the circumstances. She had an enormous heart, sometimes too big for her own good. And it was that very compassion that led her to open her home, her sanctuary, to someone she loved unconditionally, her daughter, Shanna Marie Vannorman. A daughter she had fought for, a daughter she had forgiven, a daughter she had bailed out of jail just weeks before. A daughter who, on March 22nd, 2025, was accused of ending her mother's life in a way no one could have imagined. For the people of Clarksburg, Elaine's death wasn't just another crime statistic. It was personal. A mother who had given so much, taken in a moment of unthinkable violence. A woman who had spent her life caring for others, gone in an instant. The question remains, how did it come to this? What led to the horrifying events of that night? And what warning signs, if any, were missed? To answer those questions, we must look deeper into the past, into the history of a complicated relationship between a mother and daughter, and into the series of events that led to one final, fatal confrontation. In stark contrast to her mother's nurturing and community-centered life, Shanna Marie Vannorman's journey was marred by turbulence and legal entanglements. At 41, Shanna's history was a mosaic of challenges that painted a complex portrait of a woman grappling with personal demons and societal boundaries. Shanna's adolescence in Clarksburg was marked by restlessness. Teachers noted her sporadic attendance and disengagement, while peers recall a young woman who often found herself on the fringes, searching for a place to belong. This sense of displacement seemed to follow her into adulthood, manifesting in choices that led her down precarious paths. The early 2000s saw Shanna entangled in a series of misdemeanors, petty theft, public disturbances, and minor infractions that, while not uncommon, hinted at deeper issues. Friends and family grew increasingly concerned as these incidents began to escalate in frequency and severity. By the 2010s, Shanna's encounters with the law took a more serious turn. Arrest records from this period indicate charges related to substance possession and distribution. It became evident to those around her that Shanna was battling addiction, a struggle that not only affected her health and well-being but also strained her relationships, particularly with her mother, Elaine. Elaine, ever the pillar of support, stood by her daughter through these tumultuous times. She attended court hearings, sought rehabilitation programs, and opened her home time and again, hoping to provide a stable environment for Shanna's recovery. But the cycle of relapse and recidivism persisted, testing the limits of familial bonds. In January 2025, a significant incident underscored the depth of Shanna's turmoil. Arrested for assaulting a government official and disorderly conduct, the specifics of the altercation were troubling. Witnesses described a confrontation that escalated rapidly, resulting in Shanna's apprehension and subsequent detention at the North Central Regional Jail. The weight of the situation was not lost on Elaine. Despite the advice of friends and the reservations of other family members, she made the heart-wrenching decision to post bail for Shanna. It was an act emblematic of a mother's unwavering love and hope, a belief that, perhaps this time, things could change. Shanna's release was conditional, accompanied by mandates for counseling and community service. For a brief period, there was a semblance of normalcy. She and Elaine were seen attending local events together, and neighbors noted moments of genuine connection between mother and daughter. However, underlying tensions remained, simmering beneath the surface. The community of Clarksburg watched with cautious optimism, aware of the family's history, yet hopeful for their reconciliation. Elaine's friends admired her resilience and capacity for forgiveness, even as they worried about the potential repercussions of her choices. Little did they know, the events set in motion by Shanna's release would culminate in a tragedy that would leave the town reeling and searching for answers. March 22, 2025, began like any other day in Clarksburg, West Virginia. Residents went about their routines, unaware that by nightfall, their community would be shaken by an unthinkable tragedy. At approximately 8:45 p.m., the Clarksburg Police Department received a frantic 911 call reporting a stabbing at a residence on insert street name. Officers swiftly responded, their patrol cars cutting through the quiet streets, sirens piercing the evening calm. Upon arrival, officers approached the modest home, its exterior betraying no signs of the horror within. Entering the residence, they were met with a scene of devastation. In the living room lay 64-year-old Elaine Labenne, unresponsive, with multiple stab wounds. Despite the immediate life-saving efforts initiated by first responders, Elaine was pronounced dead at the scene. Standing nearby, amidst the chaos and bloodshed, was Elaine's daughter, 41-year-old Shanna Marie Vannorman. Her demeanor was described by officers as a mix of shock and detachment. Blood stained her clothing, and in her hand, she loosely held a kitchen knife, the apparent weapon used in the attack. Officers moved quickly to secure the scene, detaining Shanna without resistance. As she was escorted to the patrol car, neighbors gathered outside, their faces etched with disbelief and sorrow. Many had known Elaine for years, some had even witnessed the challenges she faced with Shanna, but none could have anticipated such a tragic outcome. The investigation into the events leading up to the stabbing commenced immediately, suggesting that the altercation was domestic in nature. The mother and daughter had been living together since Shanna's release from jail in January, following Elaine's decision to post her bail after charges of assaulting a government official and disorderly conduct. Neighbors recounted hearing raised voices emanating from the Labenne residence in the weeks leading up to the incident. While domestic disputes were not uncommon, the community had hoped that Shanna's return home would mark a turning point for the better. Elaine, ever the optimist, believed in her daughter's capacity for change and had been unwavering in her support. As the night unfolded, forensic teams meticulously combed through the residence, collecting evidence that would piece together the final moments of Elaine's life. The kitchen knife, now tagged and bagged, bore silent testimony to the violence that had erupted within those walls. By dawn, the weight of the tragedy settled heavily over Clarksburg. News of Elaine's death spread rapidly, leaving residents grappling with a mix of grief and unanswered questions. How could a relationship defined by a mother's unconditional love culminate in such a horrific act? What series of events led to that fatal confrontation? And could anything have been done to prevent it? As Shanna awaited formal charges at the North Central Regional Jail, the community sought solace in collective mourning, remembering Elaine not for the way she died, but for the kindness and generosity that defined her life. In the wake of the tragic death of 64-year-old Elaine Labenne, the Clarksburg Police Department launched an exhaustive investigation to unravel the circumstances that led to such a devastating event. The community sought answers, and law enforcement was determined to provide them. Crime scene investigators meticulously processed the residence shared by Elaine and her daughter, 41-year-old Shanna Marie Vannorman. Every detail was scrutinized: the positioning of furniture, the presence of any defensive wounds on Elaine, and the trajectory of blood spatter patterns. These analyses aimed to reconstruct the sequence of events that culminated in Elaine's untimely death. The alleged murder weapon, a kitchen knife found in Shanna's possession upon officers' arrival, was sent to the forensic laboratory for comprehensive examination. Analysts worked to confirm the presence of Elaine's DNA on the blade and handle, seeking to establish a concrete link between the weapon and the crime. Beyond the physical evidence, detectives turned their attention to those who knew the mother and daughter. Neighbors recounted instances of heated arguments emanating from the Labenne residence in the weeks leading up to the incident. Friends of Elaine spoke of her unwavering support for Shanna, even in the face of repeated legal troubles. These testimonials painted a picture of a complex and strained relationship, marked by love, hope, and recurring disappointment. Clarksburg Police Chief Mark Kitty addressed the media in a press conference, emphasizing the department's commitment to a thorough investigation. He acknowledged the community's grief and assured residents that every resource was being utilized to ensure justice for Elaine Labenne. As the investigation progressed, attention also turned to Shanna's recent history. Just over 2 months prior, in January, she had been arrested for assaulting a government official and disorderly conduct. It was Elaine who had posted her bail, bringing her daughter back into their shared home. This act of maternal support, in hindsight, added a poignant layer to the unfolding tragedy. The culmination of collected evidence, forensic analyses, and witness statements led to Shanna Marie Vannorman being formally charged with the murder of her mother. As legal proceedings loomed, the community of Clarksburg grappled with the harrowing reality of a family torn apart and a beloved member lost in an act of unimaginable violence. The tragic death of 64-year-old Elaine Labenne sent shockwaves through the close-knit community of Clarksburg, West Virginia. Residents, friends, and family members grappled with a profound sense of disbelief and sorrow, struggling to comprehend how such a devastating event could unfold within their midst. Elaine was more than just a neighbor. She was a cherished member of the community, known for her warmth and unwavering support for those around her. Her sudden and violent passing left many searching for answers, attempting to reconcile the loving mother they knew with the horrific circumstances of her death. A relative, choosing to remain anonymous, expressed the family's turmoil. Elaine loved Shanna deeply. She always hoped for the best, believed that things could turn around. We're all struggling to understand how it came to this. The broader Clarksburg community also faced a period of introspection. Conversations emerged about the challenges of supporting loved ones grappling with personal demons, the boundaries between assistance and enabling, and the resources available for families in crisis. In the face of such heartbreak, Clarksburg demonstrated resilience. The tragedy underscored the importance of community support, open dialogue, and the collective effort to prevent similar incidents in the future. Through shared grief and mutual support, residents sought to honor Elaine's memory by fostering a community rooted in compassion, understanding, and vigilance. Shanna Marie Vannorman sits behind bars, awaiting the legal process that will decide her fate. She has been charged with the murder of her own mother, Elaine Labenne, a charge that could lead to a life-altering sentence. The courtroom will soon become the stage where prosecutors will lay out the gruesome details of that night, presenting the evidence they believe proves Shanna's guilt. The defense, on the other hand, will argue her case, perhaps pointing to mental health struggles, past trauma, or other factors that might have influenced her actions. The judge, the jury, and the attorneys will all play their roles in determining whether this was a moment of uncontrollable rage or something far more calculated. For many in Clarksburg, the trial is more than just a legal proceeding. It's a search for answers in a case that has left an entire community shaken. As she remains in custody at North Central Regional Jail, her every move is scrutinized. Inmates whisper about the case, officers keep close watch, and the outside world speculates about what will happen next. The official charge of murder looms over her, a weight she cannot escape. Those familiar with the justice system know that this is only the beginning. The legal process is slow, methodical, and unforgiving. Before a trial can even begin, there are preliminary hearings, motions, and legal arguments that could shape the entire case. The prosecution will argue that Elaine Labenne's death was an act of intentional violence, backed by forensic evidence, witness statements, and the chilling 911 call that captured the moments after the crime. The defense, depending on its strategy, may claim that there were mitigating circumstances, that something pushed Shanna to the brink. Insanity? Self-defense? A crime of passion? The arguments will unfold in the weeks and months ahead. Elaine's family and friends want justice, but justice can mean different things to different people. For some, justice means ensuring that Shanna never walks free again. For others, it means understanding what drove her to do the unthinkable. In the eyes of the law, justice is about evidence, testimony, and legal precedent. Prosecutors will push for the harshest sentence possible, knowing the emotional weight of the case. They will highlight the fact that Elaine had been the one to bail Shanna out of jail just 2 months earlier, that despite her daughter's troubled past, she had still offered her a place to live, still believed she could be saved. They will paint a picture of a mother's love met with unthinkable violence. The defense, however, may argue that Shanna's actions were the result of deep-seated mental health issues, unresolved trauma, or a lifetime of circumstances that led to that tragic night. They may introduce expert witnesses, psychologists, and evidence of her struggles in an attempt to lessen the severity of her punishment. Whether the jury will be swayed by such arguments remains to be seen. In the coming weeks, Shanna will stand in front of a judge as formal charges are read against her. If she pleads guilty, the case could move directly to sentencing, where the court will decide how many years she will serve. But if she pleads not guilty, the case will go to trial, a lengthy process that could take months or even longer. Witnesses will take the stand, forensic experts will analyze blood evidence, and detectives will reconstruct the crime scene piece by piece. If convicted, she could face life in prison. If found not guilty by reason of insanity, she could be placed in a psychiatric facility. And if her defense manages to create doubt in the minds of the jury, there is even the possibility, however small, that she could walk free. The weight of that possibility is not lost on those who loved Elaine. To them, this is not just another criminal case, it is personal. They will sit in the courtroom, watching as the woman accused of taking Elaine's life fights for her own. The community that once knew Elaine as a kind-hearted woman now waits for the outcome of a case that has left many questioning how something so horrifying could happen in their small town. Some believe justice will be swift, that the evidence will speak for itself. Others fear a long and painful trial that will reopen wounds too fresh to heal. But regardless of how the case unfolds, one thing is certain: Elaine Labenne's story will not be forgotten. Her name will be spoken in courtrooms, in news reports, in the memories of those who loved her. And at the center of it all, Shanna Marie Vannorman will sit in silence, waiting to hear whether she will ever see the outside world again. A mother who gave everything for her child, only to lose her life at the hands of the very person she fought to save. Elaine Labenne's tragic death is not just another case. It's a painful reminder of the complexity of human relationships, the unpredictable nature of mental health struggles, and the devastating consequences of unchecked turmoil. The story of Elaine and Shanna is not just about crime and punishment. It's about love, sacrifice, and the heartbreaking reality that sometimes the people we hold closest are the ones who hurt us the most. As the trial looms, the questions remain. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there warning signs that Elaine or those around her missed? Should she have been more cautious after bailing Shanna out of jail? Or was she simply a mother who refused to give up on her child? No matter the verdict, Elaine's loved ones are left with a void that can never be filled. The small community of Clarksburg, shaken by this crime, now grapples with a reality they never imagined: a mother lost, a daughter behind bars, and a family forever fractured. But this is not just one family's story. Across the country, countless individuals find themselves in similar situations, caught between love and danger, between hope and fear. If there is anything to be learned from Elaine's story, it is that sometimes love is not enough to save someone who is spiraling. Sometimes protecting yourself is the hardest, but most necessary, choice. And sometimes, despite all efforts, tragedy strikes anyway. What do you think? Were there signs that this tragedy was inevitable? Should Elaine have distanced herself after Shanna's previous arrest? Or was she simply being the loving mother she had always been? Let us know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it to spread awareness. And if you want to see more in-depth case breakdowns like this one, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay safe and take care of those around you.